There's a story in the Gospel of John, in chapter 11, 32 through 44, that speaks to me differently every time I read it. It's a story that says that Lazarus and his two sisters, Mary and Martha, were close friends of Jesus. When their brother got sick, the sister sent a messenger to Jesus to tell him that Lazarus was sick. Instead of hurrying to see Lazarus, Jesus stayed put for 2 more days. When Jesus finally arrived in Bethany, a few days later, Lazarus had already been dead and in the tomb. And so Jesus orders that the gravestone be rolled away. And the story goes that Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" And Lazarus comes out of the tomb. And verse 44 says that his hands and feet were bound with strips of cloth and that his face was wrapped in cloth. And Jesus said to him, "Unbind him and let him go." You know, sometimes the words of the Bible can seem inaccessible to some of us. It's almost as if they were written for a people that long ago have been gone, and they're not relevant for us who have to live this life that sometimes is filled with pain and death and sadness. But if you realize that Jesus was oppressed and poor, then his words, and even the whole Bible for that matter, takes on depth of meaning and relevance for us today. And so from my viewpoint, God goes from someone that's just an observer of everything that is happening on earth and becomes an active participant with the poor and those who struggle for justice here on earth. Jesus then becomes a personification of God's commitment to the oppressed. This weekend, we're going to be talking about the story of Lazarus. We're also going to be having a time to remember loved ones who have passed. And we're going to do this by honoring the Latino tradition of Dia de los Muertos, a time where we're going to be able to come together and remember those loved ones who have passed. Maybe our family member, a friend, or even our furry friends. And here's where the story of Lazarus becomes relevant in my life. For many in the LGBTQ community, we find ourselves in a tomb of sorts, where we are dead. But Jesus calls us out of this closet and into a life where we can begin to move towards a deeper relationship with ourselves, our families, our friends, our churches, and our communities. But here's where I think the story speaks to all of us. Lazarus comes out and is bound by bandages. Jesus tells the community to unbind him. And this is our call today, to come together, unbind those who have been kept in the tomb because they live in a world that was not designed for them. And I'm talking about our beautiful queer trans siblings whose names may not even be spoken this Dia de los Muertos. So today, join me in saying some of the names of trans people who, most of them are Black, Indigenous, or other people of color, and whose lives have been cut short this year through violence. Tiana Alexander, Samuel Edmund Damian Valentin, Bianca Muffin Banks, Dominique Jackson, 50 Bands, Alexis Braxton, China Carrillo, Brianna Pardo, Tiara Banks, Iris Santos. So join us this Sunday to hear the story of Lazarus, a story of death and the emotions we feel when someone that we love passes away. But it's also a really powerful story of liberation. Nuestra comunidad coming together to find hope in the midst of loss and grief. Whether you come in person or online for our online service, bring a photo or something that reminds you of your friend, your family member, or your pet. And if you don't have that, don't worry. We're going to have a special cloth where we'll write their names so that you can remember and so that we can remember together and perhaps even grieve together. And we can find solace in a God that cares for us deeply. Paz y bendiciones. See you this Sunday.